we're here in Sheila Wood's studio in Listral Inn, and we have just come out of level 5 lockdown here, and we're now in level 3 lockdown. But that gives us the opportunity, at least, to visit each other in this wonderful studio. And I want to start, Sheila, just by asking you, when you were presented with this notion of doing a sketchbook for this poem, Lockdown Is Was, what were your initial thoughts how you might go about it?
Well, at first I thought that it would be shared among lots of other artists. Linda showed me the lines that there were, and I said, "Oh, I'd like that one."
Okay.
And then, because I love poetry, and it was just a super opportunity to actually illustrate some poems in my own way. Because she said we want a sketchbook format, and so it hasn't got to be beautifully finished. It can just be sort of ideas. So again, that was a temptation, and that's the way it was.
Okay, so the idea appealed to you.
It appealed to me.
Yeah.
Very, very much.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, for myself, I had no idea what this might look like.
But it was your idea that it should be a sketchbook.
Yes.
Yes. What made you? Well,
it was. Well, I think really it was Linda who first proposed that it be a sketchbook, because she could see all the images. She came along while we were writing that collaborative poem on the live on Zoom. Right, she wasn't there at the earlier part of it, but while this was being written, she hopped on the call and thought, so full of images, which it was. That we had a chat about what could be done to bring it on another little bit, quite a big bit as it turns out. So when you were out into the hub with this wonderful creation,
you haven't got a clue until
no,
then. Right,
not a clue. So I'm really taken with the fact that you did such a mixed media response.
The point is that it's obviously so many different characters with so many different views. So I wanted it to make it look as though there was a different personality behind each picture. It wasn't just about me producing some. The only thing that's really me is my choosing of the coronavirus images and playing about with them and the bars, but the actual image of the line is, to me, it's more to do with the poet than it is to do with me. My contribution's sort of more abstract, I suppose, because I was trying to do what the line suggested, and each line is so different, and the quality of each line, the rhythm and the metre, they're just definite personalities behind each line, even though they were all linked into one poem. It's so obviously a group of people, so I wanted lots of different feelings to each image. And the main thing about lockdown is that it's keeping out this horrible virus, which we still don't know everything about. The long-term, this long COVID business, and the fact that it's mutating all the time and changing. So there are lots and lots of artistic images graphic images on the television. So I realised that it doesn't really matter how you paint it, as long as you get the feeling, the general idea of it. I did look at actual microscopic images of it, but even those are hand-coloured by somebody just to make them stand out clearly. The more you look at the microscopic images, the more the variety there is. So that was, in a way, that helped, because I was doing a different virus for each picture. So the virus could be sympathetic to the picture, the virus that I was inventing. And they are like little abstracts. The deeper you go into microscopic images, the stranger the world becomes, doesn't it?
Yeah, and more interesting.
So it was really playtime for me. Lots of the lines were about feeling safe when they're locked down.
Yeah.
And so I wanted the contrast of something solid keeping out this threat. The flaming sunsets on the eve of the equinox.
Yeah.
That's going outside, isn't it?
Yes.
But it's quite a deserted area, isn't it? It is quite lonely.
But it's also a place that has great resonance.
Yes.
Because it is Knockrow.
Yes. Well, I chose a local one just because I thought it was appropriate, but I didn't realise, and I thought, I think this is really magical, that the lady that wrote the line is a druid. Is actually a druid, and this place means such a lot to her.
Yes.
And yet all she wrote was flame sunsets on the eve of the equinox. So the fact that I decided to do this ancient place, it's almost as though there were vibrations about it coming from the line.
Isn't it?
And that thrilled me when you told me that, because I hadn't got a clue.
Well, I was thrilled when I saw what you had done. Yeah.
And that was just because the equinox, I've always liked solstices, and and that's something that's happened to people, is that they have appreciated nature so much. Everybody, that's a universal reaction, is that it's given them time to listen to the birds sing and to realise that the world carries on turning, even though we're in such turmoil. And the people I feel really sorry for are the ones that are in tiny flats in the middle of a big city with no access to the outdoors. And I think nature is so important, and it should make us treasure our environment more. It would be lovely if something green happened because of this, this awful situation, that some good came of it.
Yeah. So you've got some narrative on some of the pages for the...
Yes, well, like this one, coronavirus particles released from the surface of a dying kidney cell invaded by COVID-19. The fact that this virus doesn't just attack the lungs, which is what was initially thought, but it targets different areas of the body, so you don't know where the wretched thing is. And, well, that's the nature of the beast, isn't it?
And the materials, I mean, that particular barrier, what is that made from?
Well, I collect all sorts of odd bits of rust, because I've always, as well as painting in a fairly realistic manner, and I mean, I've got lots of different styles, and being a printmaker, I sort of got quite interested in other metals, and for a long time I made prints using rust, and then turning them into an image that suggested itself. You see that Sphinx up there? That's one of my rust pictures.
Oh, right.
I did quite a lot of them, but the colour of rust is so lovely when you print it. And then I started falling in love with the actual shape and texture of the stuff, and rubbish heaps. When we moved here, we were digging up all sorts of bits of old farm equipment and that had been left to rust away, and the fact that there's so much iron in the water here too. Anyway. Yeah. Still, it's like a jail, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's also like
and it slams.
Like slamming shut and making you safe.
Yeah. So I mean, you went from seeing the written lines and giving them some. Did you let them sit with you for a bit, and how did you experiment?
I just treated each one.
How did you play with them?
I'd just pick a line and think, what do I want to do today? Lockdown is a bear. Amphibious, our elder. Lockdown is a nettle, much maligned, a healer. I liked the nettle because nettle soup's lovely, and it is a healer, and there is so much good coming from nettles. I mean, I've written a lot of information about the nettle on here.
And this is your own handwriting.
Yeah,
tiny.
Well, yes, it is. I try and make it bigger every so often, but
but it just adds to the effect of it. But the painstaking work.
I like the texture of writing as well. I just like it as an abstract texture.
Okay. Yeah.
When I was at college, I used to write a lot on my etchings. Arabic writing is beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Chinese calligraphy.
Yeah.
You don't have to understand it.
No, to appreciate the lines,
the texture of it.
Yeah.
And drawing which is my initial love. I mean, I am a draftsman as well. Probably before I was a painter, I just used to love the line, which is why I like doing things with wire, because
I was going to ask you about the wire. Yeah.
Because wire is so linear, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be twisted and bent.
Yes, and
right. So you see a correlation between the wire and the handwriting.
and the same with threads. Just an appreciation of a line.
Yeah.
Especially, you see, when I use threads, I load them up with glue, and that weights them, so you can control where you're putting the thread.
Right.
It's all the bars sort of relate to the image, so that's quite a spiky one.
Yeah.
And this has got a spike on it, glycoprotein. That's a section of the virus.
Right. Yeah.
So there's this central bit, and these spikes are the things that
get into your cells,
that cling to the other cells, aren't they? So that seemed appropriate to go with the spikes of the hedgehog, and that's sort of a bit like the COVID itself, isn't it?
So you've kind of not quite mirrored, but
it's
used it as the link to each other.
The little hedgehog body is safe.
I'm curious too, Sheila, about, when you're working on this, and of course you and Ken are also in lockdown, and how does any of this reflect, or
on the way that I felt,
on the way that you felt, or
I think I've spent my life in lockdown. I think maybe I am happiest when I'm on my own, with my own. So it was actually a lovely situation for me, because now I can't do anything, can't go anywhere. Now I can't do that. I'm locked down.
Yeah.
It was, whereas Ken's far more of a social animal, and he was sort of desperately working in the garden in case somebody passed that he could have a word with, a socially distanced word.
Yeah.
Whereas, no, I took to it like a duck to water.
Right.
Which is bad, really. But and I've never loved the garden so much. The detail, and just sitting, watching birds interacting. It was brilliant.
And the bird song.
Yes, and I did lots of, I love the dawn chorus, though I don't know whether it's just your hearing goes as you get older, but the dawn choruses aren't what they were. I don't know, do you find that? Because when I was little, I used to lie in bed and listen to it would go out layers and layers and layers. A bird would would start and another one would answer it. And you could almost see the sound in a physical way, because as it got more distant, and the depth, the physicality of the depth of the calls, all, and there used to be hens outside, and they'd be and all the birds and these and a cockerel would crow, and then another cockerel would answer it. And there's a complete physical feeling about the layering of the sounds. And there doesn't seem to be that depth anymore to me. There aren't as many birds. I'm sure there aren't as many birds
that is
singing
a fact.
as they used to be.
Yeah.
And because it used to actually wake you up, the dawn chorus, flipping birds. and it's not that feeling anymore, is it?
No, it's not. I don't think you have birds represented here, do you?
Well, nobody wrote about
Nobody
it.
wrote about birds.
No.
Yes.
I would have represented it.
Yeah.
If there had
That's
been.
interesting, isn't it?
Because I do love birds.
Perhaps because we're talking about
drawing.
lockdown is, birds weren't locked down,
Yes,
I suppose.
well, but you see, I mean, I think if I'd had to make an image, I might have included them, because I spent a lot of, our bird table is immediately outside the kitchen window. So they're coming all the time to the kitchen window, and banging on the kitchen window too. And it's quite a nice feeling of the bird wanting to get in as well. In fact, there are a lot of robins around here, and I've only got to leave the door open.
Oh, they're
so curious and so bold, aren't they?
Yeah. I heard you tell a story about the lion in Africa.
Oh yes, that's.
And how you found the image.
Yes, I was watching an old Michael Palin documentary. There was a series of them on. Here he is.
Here he is.
And I was thinking about the lion. The lion trapped in a cage in an urban zoo far from the plains of Africa. And lo and behold, he was in Ethiopia, and there was this poor, sad lion in a cage, and Michael Palin said, "This is the saddest lion in Africa." I think Ethiopia, is it represented by a lion?
I don't know.
It was the documentary was made in the 80s or something like that, quite a while ago. And I said, "Ken, there's my lion on the lion I want." And get your phone and take a picture of the screen. And he was fortunately quick enough to get a very pathetic image of the lion on the screen. So that's why it's a bit strange. But it seemed important that this lion was actually very, very sad and very, very locked down, and not where he wanted to be, and far from the plains that he wanted to wander in. I know he's in Africa. I mean, and I suppose the poet intended it to be a lion in a zoo, but he was still locked down and wanting to go out. The scarf, I mean, this is all got threads, done it with threads and material, and because
ribbon.
It's very fabric oriented, isn't it? Lockdown is a 2-metre scarf to wrap around us both. So it was sort of cosy and warm. And
the representation of the two hearts.
Yes.
Yeah. So the bars are made of ribbon.
Yes.
Stiffened with.
Well, it just
on card, is it?
It's got the glue that I use. I mean, it makes it quite. Have you felt them?
Oh yeah. Yeah. These are rebars. Yeah.
A box to which I don't have the key. I spent a lot of time thinking of Pandora's box. Letting out the misfortunes, and then I thought of like Houdini stuck in a box, and for a while I was thinking about a crouching figure in a box. And in the end, I decided to just use COVID-shaped padlocks on a conventional treasure chest.
Yeah.
And
of
then,
course,
then the COVID all becomes the keys. So I put COVID shapes around the keys.
Yeah, it's fabulous. And the colours, I mean, the yellow.
Just to go with the murkiness of the box.
Yeah. And of course, the key now currently is the vaccine, which is about to be rolled out.
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah. So has that box now been unlocked or potentially unlocked?
We'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see. Yeah.
Funny how bears. I mean, a hedgehog's a bit bear-like, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose.
How did you ask people to use animals?
I did, but not everybody used
them.
them.
No, they didn't, did they?
Including myself. But that was a suggestion to get people started. Sometimes they have something to go with.
Yes, and I suppose people think bears are very protective, aren't they? And a bear hibernating. It is like being locked down, isn't it?
Yeah.
But a nice sort of you go into a.
And you've got I just love the colours that contribute to the effect there. You've got this kind of bluey, quite blue and green, purpley.
It's just dull. I used a gesso background, black, and if you paint on black, it mutes all the colours. Like the Impressionists broke all the rules by painting on white. Did you know that?
I did not.
No. Because there were lots when the Impressionists started painting. There were lots of discoveries about light, and that's they found that the white of the paper made the colours brighter, so it sort of shone through. Before traditional painters, you would paint on a ground. If you were painting a landscape, you'd put a ready ground on your canvas before you started painting, and that would be a complementary to the green, I suppose. And sometimes they used a tar in their paint to make things duller and darker,
right?
And the tar actually destroyed the colour in a lot of old paintings. It bubbled through.
Okay, so it
gave conservatives a nightmare. But it's that dulling down of colour that makes a sort of harmony, and that's why I thought to use some black gesso instead of white gesso as a base.
Yeah, that's very beautiful.
Gave that sort of dark cave-like shut-in feeling.
Yeah.
Then this one, the coloured screens, like stained glass. A screen of squares, faces held like coloured glass, a church of sorts. That was exactly how I'd been feeling at the time, because every time you looked at the television, there was somebody on a screen. And do you ever look at if there's a newsreader and they always make the background complement the colours, and do you ever shut your eyes and wait for the image to come up, the after image that comes up after you've been looking? We'll do it. Okay. And the complementary colours come up, so you can actually on the lid of your eyes see the image. It comes, but it's in. If she's wearing a red dress, it'll come up green. And if the background's anyway. Yeah. So I've been. I often don't even listen to what I'm often just looking at the shape of the figure, and I love that simple head, shoulders, in a rectangle, and I love stained glass in churches. Anyway, I mean, I've done a couple of stained glass windows, which was great fun. Yeah. and so that was the one that I said I want to do that one.
Was it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's how you take on the project.
Yes. So to make colours look brighter and more brilliant, you have to surround them with black.
Right.
Black makes the colours look brighter.
So the lead in stained glass would have that effect on it.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's why the bars are the stained glass window, and I tried to make the coronavirus all bright and stained glassy. Yeah. And then
it's got peas.
Yes.
This is my line. It's just so intricate. I mean,
when you're podding peas, aren't you ever fascinated by the softness, the furriness?
Oh, it's lovely, especially beans.
Of the inside of the pod. Yes.
You know, the beans, the fava beans.
Which helps the sort of lockdown,
it's like a little
doesn't it?
downy protection, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
and the little, you lock down his green peas in a pod, tight and safe, until I crack it open and find they're not ready, not yet. The times that you do that, they're still nice to eat though, aren't they?
Yeah, especially broad beans have the really lovely downy interior.
I mean, they shouldn't have been picked in the first place.
Yeah.
If you're given a load of peas to pot, because you can feel when they're ready, can't you, on the outside, to be fair.
Yeah, but sometimes you do it a bit
prematurely. As a child, when you've got the job podding peas, and to find the little tiny weeny ones, it just is so cruel, isn't it?
Yeah.
When they're not ready to come out of their pod.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of people weren't ready to come out, or are quite anxious about coming out of lockdown.
Yes, I'm sure.
Especially after the spring one.
I'm sure they were, because
very tentative about
it becomes a habit, doesn't it?
I mean,
I'm very, very reluctant to come out of it. I'll have to start.
And what did you? It's like a trellis.
Yes, it was just something I found in the garden, which I thought that'll do.
Yeah,
and it is a lock, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so these are actually lentils, so they are related to peas.
Yes,
And then the softness of the wool.
Lovely. Yeah. And of course, lentils are
related to peas, legumes, aren't they?
Yeah, but they're also, the word lentil comes from lens. Because they're shaped like
yes, it
lens,
does. Yes,
so it's like something you see through. Or, a lens through which you can view something.
Because you're not doing the things you'd normally do, you sort.
You
sort out odd drawers and you find all the bits and bobs.
Yeah.
But at the same time, your grandma's button box is sort of safe, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
comforting.
It's going back to when God was in his heaven and all was right with the world.
Yeah. And you were looked after.
And yes, and grandma's knit. So
you knitted.
I just knitted the thing to
the borders.
Fasten. I'm not brilliant at sewing, but it's and the softness. That's comforting, like a comfortable blanket. But I liked the fact that it's memories as well. Work clothes, wedding dresses, school. When I first thought, that's why the wedding dresses, I thought something lacy and pretty. That's why these are made out of bits of net, and it's got sparkly bits on them.
Fabulous.
And there's a variety of buttons from different things. Right, the old white chair, paint feeling, hard seat. Put your feet upon the rungs, give yourself a booster. My house was full of old chairs, so I wasn't short of a model. And I didn't feel as though I wanted to put a person on it.
Yeah.
It's there as an invitation to sit on if you want.
To whoever.
Yes. And the peeling paint, I tried to make the surface not look too good, and the rungs, rusty rungs.
And this is not rigid, it folds.
Yes, which I quite like the mechanics of it in an abstract way. And the kettle.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yes. And this is steam.
Right.
It's a very comforting sound, isn't it? A kettle
it's beautiful.
boiling.
Especially when on a hob, which is on a solid fuel
Yes.
range kind of.
Got one, but the downside is that it does cause condensation.
Yeah.
As soon as my kettle starts to simmer, I put the water in a flask, and then boil it up in the electric kettle afterwards.
Yeah.
So I've always got a kettle on.
I love the pre-boil sound. The little kind of whistle where it's just almost coming. That's the most gorgeous.
Yes.
Reassuring sound.
Another lovely sound is the sound of tea pouring into a cup.
Yeah.
It makes you thirsty into it.
So you've got that beautiful image.
Yes, there. Ken's hand, you have to sit and hold a cup of tea.
And the hands, it just captures the essence of comfort.
I quite like that. Yes, it is.
Being comforted.
Yes.
With a cup of tea answers everything, really.
Yes, and that's
when we're in trouble.
A tea mug cradling hot drinks to comfort those in pain from isolation.
Mm.
And that's something too that old people, if they're by themselves, they often don't drink enough, do they? Or they probably can't be bothered to put the kettle on and to have a cup of tea made for you. I mean, I looked after my mum when she was old, and hot water bottle and a cup of tea.
Yeah. These are the basics that we.
Yes, because they feel the cold so much, don't they, as they get older, and so she'd have a hot water bottle at her back, one at her front, and a rug over her knees. Rainbow at the end, hopefully.
For hope.
The promise.
Yeah.
The end.
This project, when you had this done, did you know you were going to put it into an actual cage? At what point did you know you were going to?
When I finished it, I thought, well, how's that going to be shown? And that was done in a couple of days before I said to Linda, I've done it, because at first I was just going to put it on a tray maybe, or just because I was thinking of the hub, and you can't just, you've got to isolate it from all this. There's so much stuff there.
Yeah.
And
you've also got to protect it.
Yes,
from being handled.
Somehow I just thought a cage was perfect, and I found this chunk of wood. There's the other bit. Look, we sawed it in half.
Oh yes.
That probably George Daniels gave me. And,
so you made it into a proper lockdown.
It's only bound together with wire. Because I haven't got welding tools.
But it looks like quite a sturdy construction.
And it is.
It's got your chains.
I've made garden furniture just using wire, wrapping round bits of rust that I found.
So everything has potential for
rubbish.
For art.
Give me junk.
And it can be transformed.
Yes.
It has such power, I think. The few people who've seen it already have just been bowled over by encountering it.
The stimulus is the poetry, isn't it?
Yeah, but it shows what you could make from it.
Maybe just I'm just an illustrator.
Well, not just.
But it's all communication, isn't it?
Yeah, the lines spoke to you. The lines of the poetry spoke to you, and you imaginatively reconstructed
it's like
three-dimensional.
An invisible web. Art is communication, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So the poets were communicating to me, and it's magical, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. Art saves us in many ways. Yeah, the arts.
Yes, and it's sad that the first thing to go when there's any cutbacks.
Yeah,
there's so many struggling, aren't there? That actually being a fine artist is a plus, because it's not like being an actor, which I feel so sorry for.
Because you don't need other people.
No.
Yeah, they can't close you down.
No, because we were closed down already.
By choice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful, Sheila.
Anyway,
thank
you for the opportunity.
Well, thank you for your response to the poem.
Really,
Lockdown is.
Really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Thank you.